Hey guys, Aaron Garza, founder here at Pure Line Nutrition. We are a supplement company located in San Antonio, Texas. I hope you guys are doing well. So the topic of the video and what you're going to learn about is the pump. Does the pump really matter? Does it make a difference when you go to the gym and get a pump if you're trying to put on lean muscle, or does it just kind of this cosmetic thing that you really don't need to pay attention to? So that's what we're going to talk about. But before we go on, make sure and subscribe and like the channel. We'll get updates on all our latest videos, and check out some of our past videos. I think we've got some good stuff that you might enjoy. Now, earlier this week I sent out an email, and in the email I talked about Arnold Schwarzenegger and how in his documentary, when they followed him around when he did Pumping Iron, one of the pivotal scenes was when he talked about the pump, and he referred to it as this amazing experience. In fact, you can watch it here.
The greatest feeling you can get in a gym, or the most satisfying feeling you can get in the gym, is the pump. Let's say you train your biceps. Blood is rushing into your muscles, and that's what we call the pump. Your muscles get a really tight feeling, like your skin is going to explode any minute. You know, it's really tight. It's like somebody blowing air into your muscle. It just blows up, and it feels different. It feels fantastic.
So the topic of this video is really, does the pump matter? Does it really matter if you get a pump? I mean, obviously all these bodybuilders and people talk about how the pump is just an incredible part of the workout experience, and by far and large, it is. You know, it's a great experience. You get in the gym, you work your arms, your biceps, your triceps, and you just have this engorging amount of blood filling the muscle tissue, and it just feels great. I mean, you do feel like you've accomplished something, but is it actually producing anything in the way of muscle growth? Is it helping the muscle get stronger, bigger? Is it creating change in your physique? A lot of us love the way we look when we get the pump in the gym, but then we leave the gym and, you know, 2 or 3 hours later, the pump is gone and we've kind of shrunk back to normal. So what's happening? And is it really important? And I honestly believe that the pump is pretty much crucial to putting on lean muscle tissue. And some would argue and say, no, you know, it's not that crucial, but I definitely believe it has a lot to do with the environment of building muscle. Let me kind of go into it and give you the reasons why. Number one, a good pump basically means good nourishment. It means that you've been doing all those things in the days up to the training session that are required for you to build muscle tissue. And that means you're hydrated, you're drinking enough water, a gallon a day, and just, you know, making sure that the body is always well hydrated. Number two, you're getting a lot of nutrients, your protein, your carbs, your fats. All those things are getting aligned, and you're making sure that your body is filled with what it needs to have the growth factors that it needs to put on muscle tissue. Your supplementation is right. Your training is right. There's a lot of different variables, even your hormone levels, your sleep. If you go into the gym, which this has happened to me many times, where I'll go in and, you know, I'm ready to go. I've taken my pre-workout and I start training, and then all of a sudden, man, I just don't have it. You know, the muscle feels flat. It just doesn't feel like its blood is getting in there. And honestly, those days, it's probably better for me just to do some cardio and leave the gym, because I'm probably counterproductive to getting the results that I really want from my training. So number one, the pump allows us, it's kind of a window as to whether we are actually doing what's necessary for correct muscle growth. So think about it that way. Number two, if you don't get a good pump, and this is something I just realized recently, if you're not getting a good pump, it could be because your muscle isn't fully recovered from the last training session. Now, my rule of thumb is always, like, if I go in the gym to work chest, let's say, that's a pretty popular body part, and I can squeeze my chest and I can tell that it's still sore from 4, 5, or 6 days ago, then that muscle tissue isn't fully recovered. It hasn't healed. It's like a wound that's been, you know, kind of broken apart and open, and the healing hasn't taken place. So that muscle is not getting bigger. It's not getting stronger. Obviously, if you're not recovered, you're not going to get a good muscle pump. You're not going to get blood and muscle and hydration into the sarcoplasm around the muscle, and you're not going to see that fullness. So that's kind of an indicator that, hey, you know what? Whatever I'm doing here is probably counterproductive to the result that I'm trying to achieve. So let me step back, take a few extra rest days, and, you know, consequently, it's funny, like if I go on vacation for 3 or 4 days, I don't work out, I feel guilty, maybe I'm eating a little bit more than I should be, but I come back and the pump is absolutely insane. You know, I have these great workouts, the pumps are great, but essentially my body was probably in an overtrained state and it wasn't getting all the nutrients that it needed. It wasn't recovering correctly. So sometimes those 4 or 5 days off, or even, you know, just 48 hours off, make a huge difference in the capacity to get a good muscle pump. Now, the third thing that I think is really, really important is your training biomechanically correct, and are you incorporating several types of training? So when you go to the gym and you lift weights, a lot of times, you know, people are swinging weights around, they're, you know, just getting the training done, just trying to get through the movement as quickly as possible, but they're really not focused on that mind-muscle connection, which really creates the tension necessary to drive fluid and hydration and blood into the muscle so that it can have all the nutrients that it needs to help promote muscle growth. So that's really important. I mean, it could be as simple as changing some angles, you know, if you're doing rows, changing to an overhand grip versus an underhand grip, or doing curls using a hammer grip versus a neutral grip. All of those things make a difference, and the thing is, everybody is different biomechanically. No two people are really the same when it comes to structure. So you've got to play around with things and really focus on that mind-muscle connection, get that targeting right so you're actually putting blood into the muscle that you're training. It's interesting because if you look at a lot of the cross training out there today, I'm not saying that it's bad, but they don't really target specific muscle groups. It's more, you know, cardiovascular intense, and, you know, you're just kind of going through the motions and getting the training done for the sake of getting it done, which is good for a lot of people because probably a lot of people wouldn't train at all if they didn't have that type of training there for them. But when it comes to muscle growth and the pump and really changing your body, the isolation and the focus on those individual muscle groups needs to be there. The other thing you need to look at as volume versus strength training. You know, a lot of people go to the gym and they just do volume training because for some reason volume drives a lot of blood and hydration into the muscle tissue quicker. You don't have a lot of time to rest as you do, let's say if you're doing a set of squats and you take 4 or 5 minutes rest between sets. When you're doing volume training, it's moving, going. You're putting blood into the muscle, you're letting the muscle expand. You're not giving your body time to get rid of that blood or normalize, and you're doing another set. So you've always got blood volume in the muscles. So people ask, well, is it better to do the volume training where I'm getting a pump, or to do the strength training where I'm not really getting a pump, but, you know, I am getting stronger? And I think the answer lies somewhere in the middle. You definitely need a combination of both volume and strength training. In fact, what I'd recommend is to kind of cycle your training periods. For example, week 1, do a heavy phase of training where you're doing 5, maybe 8 repetitions at a fairly heavy weight with a lot of tension, with good form. And then week 2, go into kind of a moderate training where you're doing 8 to 12 reps, maybe 60 seconds between rests, really pumping some blood. And then week 3, go into a high volume phase, you know, where you're really doing supersets and drop sets, pumping as much blood and nutrients into the muscle as necessary or as possible so you can get the results you're looking for. When you combine those 3 types of training, I think overall, over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to get the better or the best results possible. Now, in addition to that, we know that the pump is very important. We know that it makes a difference in our ability to grow based on some of those factors. How can we elicit a stronger pump? What can we do to get more blood and hydration into the muscle, with the exception of those 3 things I already talked about? Well, there are certain ingredients. In fact, 3 come to mind that I like to consider my trademark, you know, key cornerstone ingredients that I would go to and utilize before training to ensure I get the most hydration and blood into the muscle. These 3 are all trademarked. They're very high quality ingredients. What I like about them is that they all have clinical studies that prove that they do work. So let me go over those 3 real quick. Number 1 is nitrosygen, or nitrosygen. It's kind of, there's different ways of pronouncing it. I call it nitrosygen, but I've heard it said as nitrosygen before as well. And essentially what this is a nitric oxide booster. It's going to increase the amount of nitric oxide in the bloodstream, which is going to increase blood flow and capacity going into the muscle cell, opening up the muscle cell, allowing more blood to enter and getting more pump from the workout. This does a lot of things for circulation, for heart health, for brain health, for focus. There's a lot of good elements that it has involved in its actual ability to work. So it's a great product to have. I think the usual dosage is about 1,000 to 1,500 milligrams per serving. The second one is Vaso-6. Now, Vaso-6 works more as a vasodilator. It dilates the actual vascular system and the arteries so that they open up a little more, allowing for more blood to pass through and allowing more blood to enter the muscle cells. So that actually increases the muscle by way of vasodilation. The third one, which is actually kind of works in a different way than the first two, is Glycer Pump. And Glycer Pump is also a nitric oxide product, but it's a type of glycerin. It makes the cells ultra absorbent, so they're absorbing more hydration, more blood, more water, and more intracellular fluid is getting into the muscle tissue to create a bigger overall muscular size. Now, what's cool about that is over time, you will find that the muscle tissue gets bigger. And I kind of compare it to filling up a balloon with water. If you fill up a balloon with water, it's going to get to a certain size. But then the next time, you're going to be able to fill it up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more because of that cell expansion that takes place. So those three key ingredients are the ones that I would look for in a pre-workout supplementation or a nitric oxide type product. I have all three of them actually in our Plasmavol Evo 3 blend in clinical dosages. So this is a great pre-workout non-stimulant pump product. If you want to make sure and ensure that you're getting the most from your pump, this would be something really cool to take. And you can combine it with a pre-workout that does have stims. So those are the three things that I find extremely beneficial in helping you acquire the best pump from your training. And I think the answer to the question as to whether a pump is necessary for muscle growth is pretty obvious. I think it definitely does have a lot to do with increasing muscle size, increasing muscle growth, increasing nutrient absorption and delivery. So think about that when you go to the gym and try to create your training program and your nutrition and your supplementation around that so that you are getting the best pump possible and the best results. All right, guys, hope you got a lot from that video. If you have any questions, you can always email us at info@thepureline.com. And you can always call us. 1-800-632-1402 is our number. Somebody's there to help you with your training, your nutrition, and supplementation. Guys, have a great one. We'll see you next time.